She was simply walking back to her car, in a neighborhood where she had every right to be. But then, a group of men appeared, acting like they had authority, demanding answers, accusing her of trespassing. They thought they had found an easy target. What they didn't know was that the woman they cornered carried a truth that would flip their power on its head. How far would they go before their mistake became undeniable? It was a quiet afternoon, the kind where the air feels still and predictable. Off duty, she had finally set aside her badge and uniform, ready to enjoy a moment of peace. Her destination was simple, just retrieving something from her car parked outside a friend's home. To anyone passing by, she looked like any other neighbor, moving with the ease of someone who belonged. But beneath that calm surface, shadows of judgment were already circling. What she couldn't see yet was how quickly a normal day would twist into confrontation, forcing her identity into the spotlight in ways she never asked for. She barely made it halfway across the driveway before the voices cut through the air. Sharp, demanding. A group of men in matching shirts, carrying clipboards and radios, surrounded her as if they had been waiting. They weren't police, though their tone carried the weight of authority. They called themselves the Neighborhood Enforcement Team, but in reality, they were nothing more than self-appointed HOA vigilantes. With stern faces, they accused her of trespassing, insisting she didn't belong there. Each word dripped with suspicion, as if her very presence was a crime. She calmly explained she was visiting a friend, but the more she spoke, the less they listened. To them, her skin color was evidence enough. What started as questions quickly turned to commands. One man stepped closer, chest puffed, blocking her path. Another snapped photos of her car, muttering about evidence. She felt the sting of humiliation, a mix of anger and disbelief, as strangers treated her like a criminal in broad daylight. The quiet afternoon was gone, replaced with a stage of judgment where she had no voice. Still, she stood firm. But their arrogance grew. One reached for handcuffs, plastic restraints carried to make their act look official. Her heart pounded. Every instinct screamed to reveal who she was, to shut this farce down instantly. Yet a part of her hesitated. Should she? Would that end it? Or make them double down? The circle around her tightened. Neighbors peeked through curtains, whispers spreading like fire. Every second the tension mounted, and every second their mistake deepened. She hadn't even revealed her truth yet, and already, the line between ignorance and abuse was blurring into something far more dangerous. What would happen when they finally discovered the woman they tried to shame was someone with more authority than all of them combined? The moment their plastic cuffs brushed her wrists, something inside her snapped. She had held back long enough, swallowing the sting of their insults, the weight of their arrogance. But as the men closed in, their voices barking orders with the false confidence of real officers, the truth could no longer stay hidden. Her voice cut through the air, steady, commanding, and unmistakably authoritative. She announced who she was, a captain in the police force, off-duty but very much within her rights. The shift was instant. Faces drained of color, eyes widened, and the bravado that moments earlier filled the air collapsed into silence. But the damage was already done. Neighbors had seen her paraded like a criminal. Phones had captured the confrontation, and she felt the searing mix of rage and sorrow, because her identity shouldn't have been the only thing to protect her from their abuse. What if she hadn't been a captain? What if she had just been any other black woman, alone and unarmed, cornered by men who thought they could play judge and jury? For a heartbeat, the world seemed to hold still. The so-called enforcers shuffled backward, stammering excuses about protocol and misunderstandings. But their words fell flat against the truth now laid bare. The mask of authority had cracked wide open, exposing what lay beneath. Prejudice dressed up as order. And as the crowd murmured, the question hung heavy in the air. How many others had suffered in silence, without the shield of a title to save them? As the confrontation dissolved, the so-called enforcers slinked away, their voices reduced to weak apologies no one believed. The crowd dispersed slowly, whispers echoing what everyone had just witnessed. She stood there in the quiet aftermath, outwardly composed, but inside the weight of the moment pressed down like a stone. This wasn't triumph, it was a reminder of just how fragile dignity becomes when bias wears a uniform, even a fake one. For her, the sting wasn't about the handcuffs that never closed or the false accusations that crumbled the moment her badge was revealed. It was about the reality that, without that badge, she might have been another headline, another name added to a list that grows too long. The incident left scars, not physical, but deep and invisible. It showed how quickly power can be fabricated, how easily prejudice can masquerade as authority, and how dangerous that mix becomes when directed at someone because of the color of their skin. And yet, this wasn't just her story. It was a reflection of countless others who didn't have the shield of a title to fall back on, who endured humiliation or worse without an audience to witness it. So the question lingers. How many more lives will be disrupted, shamed, or even destroyed before society confronts the truth? Before we stop mistaking bias for order and fear for justice? This story is more than a warning. It's a call to see, to listen, and to act. Because silence, in moments like these, is not neutrality. It's complicity.